Israel is under fire from human rights groups for the continued sale of weaponry to the Burmese junta after intensified violence against the country's Rohingya Muslim minority. More than 100 tanks as well as boats and light weapons have been sold to the Burmese government by Israeli arms companies. Investigations by several rights watchdogs have found. One company, TAR Ideal Concepts, has also trained Burmese special forces in northern Rakhine State, where much of the violence is taking place, posting pictures on their website of its staff teaching combat tactics and how to handle weapons. An army crackdown triggered by an attack on the 25th of August by Rohingya insurgents and Burmese security forces has triggered a major humanitarian crisis. There is a US and EU embargo on selling arms to the Southeast Asian country, which was until recently under military rule. Israel's High Court will decide on whether to ban arms sales to the country later this month, after a petition by Israeli activists. In March, the Israeli Defense Ministry defended sales, saying that the courts had no jurisdiction over a diplomatic issue. Afa Neyman, an Israeli human rights activist, told journalists that successive Israeli governments have been selling arms to the military dictatorship in Burma for years. This policy is strongly related to Israel's oppression and dispossession of the Palestinian people. Weapons used against the Palestinians are being sold as field-tested to some of the worst regimes on the planet. Graphic photos and videos from the region show beheaded children and entire villages burnt to the ground by military and paramilitary forces. The Rohingya have been persecuted in the region for centuries due to their ethnicity and faith. Penny Green, Professor of Law at Queen Mary University of London and Director of the International State Crime Initiative, wrote in a recent report, "The state has historically adopted strategies of othering the Rohingya, stigmatizing them as illegal Bengalis and terrorists. The Rohingya have been isolated from mainstream society by being forced into squalid camps and prevented from leaving their villages, harassed through disenfranchisement and violent intimidation, and systematically weakened through physical and psychological destruction, overcrowding, malnutrition, lack of healthcare, torture, sporadic killings, humiliation and abuse." It is important to point out that despite suffering from decades of severe persecution, there is no evidence of Rohingya-led extremism. The violence against the Rohingya has been condemned by the international community. Speaking in Geneva on September 11th, the United Nations top human rights official said, "Burma's treatment of its Rohingya minority appears to be a textbook example of ethnic cleansing."
So you have this situation now where things have deteriorated. The Rohingya, as we know, are not legally recognised. They have no citizenship rights in Myanmar. Myanmar's government is saying that the current violence is provoked by the Rohingya militants. They're saying that there is an issue of terrorism in Rakhine State. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, I think we have to be absolutely clear that the real terrorism that's being conducted in Rakhine State is initiated by the government and the Burmese military. There's no doubt about that. And the evolution of a small group that we've been hearing about lately, ASA, is absolutely the product of the persecution that the Rohingya have suffered for decades. So it's very disingenuous on the part of the Burmese government.